Hello everyone and welcome to another Brad vs. BBDZBDBDB. That's
Brad,
it, right?
BBDDZ.
DZZ for Schneezy.
Yeah, I'm also a rap artist in addition to.
You'll have to check out his YouTube page once it exists. But before that, we're going to play some standard with a couple new cards. Mostly, I was trying to find the best shell for Ajani Steadfast, and I kept building white weenie decks, and they looked okay. Yeah. But no deck could really like showcase the power of the +1, and I think that's like the ability you have to make sure that you use best. Like, of course, taking down is great, but when you don't have a good force in play or only one creature, the takedown isn't that great. And just pumping up like, you know, a Boros Elite doesn't sound that appealing.
Get in for 2.
Probably not, because the Sylvan character is probably going to block. But I thought of one deck that in Ajani seems perfect in, and that's Brave Naya. So let's take a quick look at the updated version, and then we'll get to battle because BBD's playing Black-White Midrange.
Oh, yeah. Which
is kind of cool, though. He's not playing Underworld main. We're going to see how good Sign in Blood actually is.
Yeah, one thing sorry to derail this for a second, but one thing I feel about Black-White is, just Black in general, is you want to be as quick and proactive as possible because people can develop boards that you can't ever beat, and they can do that very early in the game sometimes. So my philosophy on those decks is I just want the cheapest version of all the spells I can possibly play. So
and you don't have Grey Merchant.
Yeah, I don't have Grey Merchant, so I don't need the Devotion.
But. All right, well, let's get Brave. All right, so the deck looks very similar to every other version of this deck. We're not doing anything sweet with Fabled here anymore, and that's because Ajani Steadfast makes me think that you don't have to try to do anything cute with the deck. You can just play big creatures and attack. And also, Ajani, or Boros Reckoner into Ajani seems phenomenal to me. Just being a 4/4 that they can't really like double block, so they're going to have to take the damage because it's just a huge 2-for-1. The ability to give it first strike as well, and just being able to give it vigilance, so it'll be able to block and protect the Ajani next turn.
Yeah, giving Boros Reckoner first strike is really insane because
he already has first strike.
He already has it.
Yeah. But the sweet thing is also with Ajani, once we untap, our mana base deals so much damage to us that in some matchups that become a race, you can just Gore Clan the creature that you Ajani'd and just gain all of that life back. And I think this card is going to give the deck a little longevity. Also, I mean, there's the draws where it's just like guy, Ajani tick down. Yeah. And one of the problems with this deck was it never had a card to make the soldiers be able to get over Sylvan Caryatid or anything bigger than that. And now we have Ajani that actually does that. Right. So I'm not going to be playing any, of the gimmicky giant growths anymore. And we did shave on one Brave the Elements to be able to play more of this package because you don't want to trim too many creatures. The deck does need a ton of creatures. So I thought one Brave the Elements is fine because we're going to have turns where we're tapping out on turn 4 more often. Also, the 23rd land is going to let us on turn 4 play more combinations of these cards.
So here's a question for you. I know Smiter was in the deck before because you wanted to attack through Courser. Now that you have Ajani, would it potentially be better as a Brimaz that can still attack through a Courser, or?
I've had that before, and I even played Brimaz, and it was pretty good. But the thing that Lockstone Smiter does, and why I like it, is it can be Tidebindered where Brimaz can't, which is a huge difference. But usually Tidebinder comes down earlier than that anyway.
Right.
The Smiter is just a generic 4/4, and so it's always going to be that. Where Brimaz sometimes has pros and cons to not having that extra power on its own, but for the most part, I've just found that I like having a Lockstone Smiter in play, especially against what I think the format's going to be like anyway, and it does do better against cards like Brimaz and just a lot of the other situational cards in the format. I just want my card to be able to get around Frostburn Weirds and all that without any other help.
Okay.
Especially when when you're able to do that, you don't have to blow. You get your 4 damage in, and you don't have to blow your spells. So that's like one of the big things. Maybe Brimaz could be better, especially now that the mana base got even better with Battlefield Forge, even though we're only playing 2 because we need so many green sources. But I've just found that every time I take the Smiters out of the deck, I regret it. Okay. They're not as good as the Reckoners, but yeah. Anyway, the sideboard is over here, and we'll just get right into that. Domri seems awesome in this deck, along with Ajani, just having that ability to have another Planeswalker that also just gets all my creatures. Mortars and Glare and Keening are just our generic removal spells for whatever we need. It's pretty obvious what we're trying to kill, like Dragons, Coursers, Frostburn Weirds. The Tactics is a new inclusion for myself. I've seen a lot of people playing Brave Naya playing this card, and that's just to help get around the mono blue matchup, any of the other devotion-based decks, just any deck that's trying to put a lot of guys on the board, I have tactics. Now, one thing that I might change is I was thinking about playing one Armed and Dangerous just to go along with the Boros Reckoners against those matchups, just make them attack the Boros Reckoner. But the issue with that is Court of Calling stops that. So all the devotion-based Court of Calling decks, you're never going to get blown out. You're never going to blow them out with an Armed.
Right.
And just like, it's really sweet when they all have to block your Boros Reckoner. But that's just not going to be that big of a thing, I think, anymore, to where I think the tactics are just going to do more damage and faster. You can just go like guy, kill their 2 guys on turn 3.
Yeah. Tactics, like Armed and Dangerous, requires some setup.
Yes. And it needs a Boros Reckoner in play to be good at all. And then Unflinching Courage, I don't know how good this card actually is in this deck anymore, but usually that one turn where you just get that life is big, but maybe like one of these should just be in a Ajani Steadfast. They do seem comparable.
Yeah, they do a lot of the same thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's Brave Naya. And
I do have one question. So the name of this deck, Brave Naya, is that because you have to be brave to actually pilot this in the tournament?
There's a lot of meanings for Brave.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
you do have to be brave to pilot it into a tournament. It has Brave the Elements. And you have to be brave and stupid to think it's not going to beat you, because it's going to beat you today.
Ooh, well, guess I'm not an Atlanta Braves fan, so.
Good joke.
That was
Good joke.
That was a real bad joke.
I know it was.
Yeah.
I was just trying to keep you up. All right. Anyway, guys, more bad puns from BBD to follow.
Yes.